have a mansion. In the post-apocalyptic world by Morning Star LL. Chapter 31, Family Meeting? That was incredibly awkward. Yao Yao just came downstairs and saw the embarrassing intimacy. She stood at the edge of the stairs with a blushing face, her mouth slightly open as she didn't know what to do. Passion overtook the two of them for that brief intimate moment, but it was still too crazy to have such a seductive scene in the living room, especially when they weren't alone. They selectively forgot about the existence of other people under the same roof, though it was fun while it lasted. Sun Jiao fled the scene of the crime, embarrassed by what just happened. She wanted to dig a hole for herself and also for Jiang Chen after what Yao Yao just saw. But when she escaped, she didn't untie the ropes around Jiang Chen. With her skillful technique and the rope's quality, it was impossible to break it no matter how hard he tried. "Hi, brother." She was ecstatic to see him again, but the mood wasn't exactly right to hug him as her face was still blushing red with the image in her head. "Yao Yao, can you help me untie this?" Jiang Chen ditched any honor he had and pleaded for Yao Yao's help. Except the problem was that his pants were still dropped to his knees and exposed a certain part. "I am going to be embarrassed to death." Yao Yao's face was burning. She kept her head down because she was curious, but at the same time, she was too afraid to approach him. Because of her nervousness, the pair of delicate hands were unable to untie the ropes despite several desperate attempts. "Is it good?" Jiang Chen asked awkwardly. Gulp. It was the sound of swallowing. No, nothing. It's almost done." Her anxiousness made her suddenly raise her voice. Although she said she almost loosened it, Jiang Chen did not feel the slightest sign of relief. Yao Yao raised her lips in a slight grimace. When she peeked at Jiang Chen, she got scared because of his voice and accidentally bit her tongue. She shyly glanced at the part exposed and out in the open. She felt her heart rate increase for some strange reason. She knew what it was, but it was her first time seeing one with her own eyes. "It's so big. Is it even possible to put it in?" Yao Yao's thoughts wandered as she tried to recollect herself. Her face blushed while her fingers struggled to untie the rope. "Sun Jiao, come out, please spare me." He wanted to laugh and weep at the same time as he yelled out for help. He knew she would be laughing at this point. Her devil-like personality would not simply let him go scot-free. If Yao Yao's hands continued to caress him any longer, Jiang Chen would be even more ashamed. Just as Jiang Chen expected, Sun Jiao had already dressed, hiding behind the kitchen door. She was peeping through the cracked open door and laughing hysterically at the blushing Yao Yao and the awkward Jiang Chen. "This feels great." But she knew it wouldn't be okay to cross the line. Sun Jiao pouted as she opened the door to untie Jiang Chen. The reason why she allowed it was one of her considerations. She had a partial understanding of his secret, and it made Sun Jiao feel threatened. She didn't care how many mistresses he had and knew that there would be plenty of them in the other world. But what frightened her most was the possibility of Jiang Chen disappearing from her life forever and she being unable to pursue him. One world was the dangerous apocalypse while the other was a food-filled heaven. If she had a choice, she would not live here at all. If Jiang Chen gained someone else that he loved in the other world, she was too afraid to keep thinking. She had fallen in love with him. So she used a little trick of hers to drag Yao Yao with her. Although her growth was delayed in the hibernation chamber, she had already hit puberty. Sun Jiao didn't believe that Yao Yao, who has such strong feelings towards Jiang Chen, would remain innocent after this seductive scene. Once the idea was planted in her head, there would always be opportunities in the future. Yao Yao was still naive. A simple kiss was not enough to keep his heart here. If one person was not enough to attract him, two people would be. Sun Jiao thought about this while she was away from the scene. She would do everything to keep him here. So she had to create some relationship entanglement for him to remember. A devil-like smile appeared on her face again. "I am here. Just wait, hee. Damn it, I know you're hiding over there. You were laughing, right? You must have been laughing. I have something important I want to talk to you guys about." Jiang Chen had dressed again and rotated his sore wrist. He looked at the still blushing Yao Yao and the shameless Sun Jiao as he suppressed his awkwardness from what just happened. He spoke in a serious tone, however, that made Sun Jiao's grin fade away. She gently nodded, which was a rare expression to appear on her face, making Jiang Chen a little surprised. Yao Yao lowered her head and prepared to go back to her room, but Jiang Chen grabbed her hand. Yao Yao jumped like a startled rabbit. She was too shy to look Jiang Chen in the eyes. "I am so embarrassed." Jiang Chen gave Sun Jiao a hard stare, but she shamelessly looked away. I'll go back to my room." "No, you are my family as well." Jiang Chen gently patted her head. He had long decided this on the day she saved him. If it were not for Yao Yao's courage, Sun Jiao and he would have become food for the cannibals, or at least he would been. "Let me take this off for you." His heart melted as he looked at Yao Yao, who was enjoying this intimate moment. Jiang Chen reached for the electronic bracelet. For a while now, he wanted to take this thing off her because she had never been a slave to him. No. Yao Yao tenderly grasped Jiang Chen's hand with both of hers. I want to be a girl, special only to Big Brother. Special? Jiang Chen was puzzled by the idea, not understanding her meaning. But Yao Yao's face turned burning hot again, not saying another word. Ahem, is it okay for you guys to display your affection in front of me? Sun Jiao said with her eyes narrowed. It's okay to say Yao Yao is yours, but it is not okay to publicly display your affection in front of me. This was what was going through Sun Jiao's mind. I refuse to allow this. She began to grind her teeth subconsciously. Jiang Chen felt the devil's stare as he uncontrollably shivered. Okay. Startled like a rabbit again, Yao Yao backed away. Sun Jiao never bullied her, but she had always been afraid of her. Don't you have something important to say? Go ahead and say it now. Sun Jiao let out a sigh and cleared her mind. Jiang Chen's face turned serious again. He sat Yao Yao down again before he walked to the middle of the living room. Yao Yao confusedly watched Jiang Chen's actions. Sun Jiao seemed to already have a guess as she propped her chin on her hand while waiting for his explanation. I am from a different world. Although she was mentally prepared, she was still shocked when Jiang Chen said it with his mouth. Yao Yao was completely stunned. Let me explain. Jiang Chen sighed as he extended his left hand. The food and supplies inside the storage dimension emerged in the middle of the room. There were no special effects, only the sudden appearance of all the canned foods, vegetables, and rice as if fantasy had just become reality. This shocked Sun Jiao completely while Yao Yao was already mind-blown. He scratched the back of his head in front of the two dumbfounded girls. I haven't explained anything yet. Why are you guys so shocked? Brother, are you an immortal? Yao Yao was the first one to regain her senses. Her eyes were filled with admiration as she stared with awe at Jiang Chen. To be honest, it feels great to be idolized by a naive, young girl. No. These things did not appear from thin air. How should I explain this? From my world, it is very easy to exchange for these goods with gold. So, Big Brother is from a parallel dimension that's before the war? Yao Yao unknowingly nodded her head. She spent her child before the war, so she remembered the prosperity in the earlier times. Smart. That sums it up nicely. Jiang Chen praised Yao Yao and gave her a thumbs up. She explained everything he was troubled about in one sentence. This much? Sun Jiao grew up in the survival base, so without much experience, she was completely stunned. Jiang Chen couldn't stop himself from laughing at the dumbfounded Sun Jiao. Jiang Chen briefly explained his origin and comforted away the worries of the two girls about whether he would suddenly disappear. When Sun Jiao asked about the possibility of interdimensional travel with someone else, an anxious look appeared on Yao Yao's face, but Jiang Chen had to let them down as he took out the cage with the dead hamster. He didn't explain, only leaving it on the table. The two girls were briefly silent before they understood. Interdimensional travel is already magical. If it was possible to bring a creature with you, the world would not be the same anymore. Sun Jiao forced a bitter smile as she shook her head. She tiredly fell onto the table. Yes. There are mutated cells everywhere in this world. Only humans with some resistance can prevent mutating into zombies. If Big Brother brought people over, the mutation could spread in the other world as well. Yao Yao gave a more serious consideration that left Jiang Chen drenched in cold sweat. True? The mutation viruses are everywhere. If I bring it back to the other world? He quivered at the idea. He was inconsiderate of the situation as his mind was only filled with how to make money. He never considered a critical issue like this. If not for the interdimensional bracelet's ability to terminate all life, the other world would be complete chaos. He didn't know the principle behind it. Maybe it would be helpful to dissect that hamster? But he didn't probe too deeply into that thought. Let's not talk about this anymore. Since you're all mine, I have an obligation to provide a better life for you. Jiang Chen's words made both Sun Jiao and Yao Yao blush. I brought a lot of supplies back, and now we need more fridge space to store these supplies. It'd be even better if I had access to freezers as well. There are also some easy-to-store canned foods and preserved crackers in there. I plan to exchange these for crystals and purchase some equipment to fortify our mansion. Sun Jiao nodded. The preserved crackers sell at around 1 crystal per piece. We don't need to go to the 6th Street to exchange it either, since there are plenty of community-sized survivor camps around here. Although I've reinforced the mansion, the defense is clearly not enough. It'd be better if we could exchange for some firearms and weapons. Jiang Chen briefly considered it. Okay, let's make a list of all the items we need and make all of our purchases on one trip. Also, I think it's safer to go to the 6th Street. The smaller survivor camps are not that trustworthy. Despite their reinforced mansion, there were not enough people here. Sun Jiao alone would not be able to defend this place. If the food caught the other survivors' attention, those poor, starving refugees could become gun-wielding bandits the next second. The absolute neutrality that the 6th Street prided themselves on meant that they kept a clear name on the wasteland to foster their growth into a giant. You're right, but the Huizhou mercenaries are going to be looking for us there. Sun Jiao explained her concerns. They lost an entire raid team to Jiang Chen last time. It would be a bloodbath the next time they encountered the mercenaries. Don't be afraid. Jiang Chen smiled. It only takes me 2 seconds to escape the danger. After he finished his sentence, Jiang Chen disappeared from their visions, and reappeared the next second. Fu asterisco kappa. If I do it too fast, it has its problems. Jiang Chen lost his balance and almost fell trying to hold on to the chair. There were some consequences to using this ability back-to-back, such as brief dizziness. You just? Yes, I went and came back from the peaceful world. Jiang Chen covered his dizzied head and explained. Since he already admitted his secret, he didn't need to hide his ability in the future. 1 crystal of energy was nothing to him. It was only a piece of preserved crackers after all. This is incredible, Yao Yao exclaimed in disbelief. Sun Jiao blankly nodded. The danger of the sewer system is already eliminated. He tried not to remember the scene. Because of this, I can go by myself to the 6th Street and bring the supplies in the storage dimension. I'm still worried. Sun Jiao nervously looked at Jiang Chen. You have to take care of our home. We don't have enough of a workforce here. How about I buy some people this time? Such as buying a few more cute girls? Sun Jiao gave him a dangerous look. Yao Yao also pouted at the idea but couldn't say anything to change his mind. After all, Jiang Chen purchased her. What do you think I am? A sex addict? Jiang Chen ruefully smiled as he rubbed his nose. There's no way you can defend this mansion by yourself. Also, I need some people with unique talents. There were treasures everywhere on the wasteland, including the people that couldn't use their unique talents here. Jiang Chen could easily use their ability and generate a fortune for his futuristic technology. What about me? I can learn. You don't want me anymore? Surprised, Yao Yao approached him with teary eyes. How could that happen? He rubbed her puffy hair gently. I don't want you working so hard. You already help me a lot. Also, don't stay up anymore. You need your sleep. Uh-huh. Yao Yao joyfully hummed at Jiang Chen's head rub and immediately forgot her concern. Since you said it, what if you bring another girl back this time? Sun Jiao was not as easy to fool as Yao Yao. I swear to God, he said while raising his hand before she doubtfully let it go. Sun Jiao's concern was unnecessary since Jiang Chen had no such intentions. Although he was an open person, it was because he had suppressed himself for a long time. Even in just a month's worth of time, he became more mature. He never planned on building a sex dungeon in the apocalypse. Even if he had the opportunity, he would not have the energy. Compared to these things, more were awaiting him. The mansion lacked a workforce in every aspect. The watchtower beside the wall required a person because he was unwilling to send Sun Jiao to guard the door every day. He also needed someone to fix the electronics and appliances in the mansion. With Sun Jiao's limited knowledge, she hemmed the solar power with pure luck. From electricians to construction workers, he needed a lot of people here. He wouldn't risk allowing the survivors into the mansion. After wandering the wasteland for so many years, their morals were questionable. Instead, the slaves he purchased would be safer. Nobody would risk their lives with the electronic bracelet on. That way, Jiang Chen wouldn't need to worry about them defying his command. They would be more grateful for this opportunity because Jiang Chen had food. Even if he only fed them a bowl of congee every day, it would be significantly better compared to their previous lives. Jiang Chen considered himself a sympathetic person. He would never torture slaves, but it was rare for a master like this to exist in the apocalypse. Let me be clear first, this does not apply to Yao Yao. But don't ever think about taking off the electronic bracelets off the slaves. Sun Jiao also considered Yao Yao as part of the family, but she worried that Jiang Chen's humanitarian considerations would want to get rid of all the bracelets. Don't worry, I'm not that foolish yet, he said with a bitter smile. I've matured. I do admit that I grew accustomed to using peaceful ways of thinking before, but I don't think that will happen again. Sun Jiao nodded, pleased with the answer. Yao Yao, who was afraid to talk, also let out a sigh. In that case, I won't worry anymore. Is the family meeting over? As she stretched, her breasts almost exploded out of her clothes. When she heard the words, family meeting, Yao Yao uncontrollably blushed. Jiang Chen also burst out in laughter. Ahem, since it is a family meeting, then it's still not over. Jiang Chen shook his head. What else? Sun Jiao leaned back against the chair. He nodded with an earnest stare into her eyes. It's about you. The things that you must do, can you tell me now? A hint of emotion flashed in her eyes. You still remember. Of course, you are mine. I will never forget. I'm about to give up. Sun Jiao's gaze that was full of joy, sorrow, and confusion dodged his eyes. But I still remember, right? Why don't you tell me? It never hurts to try, Jiang Chen said sincerely. She let out a long exhale and slowly opened her mouth. I managed to find the feeling of home here. I already feel incredibly lucky. The silly idea I have, since you already asked, I'll tell you. She paused before she suddenly smiled. You know, do you know? This place is actually my home. Chapter 32, Sun Jiao's Past. Sun Jiao's words surprised Jiang Chen and Yao Yao. Jiang Chen remembered she was born in Survival Base 071, so how was she connected to this mansion? When he heard Sun Jiao's explanation, however, he finally understood the connection as well as why she'd been starving in this mansion in the first place. Sun Jiao's father owned this estate before the war, but due to the sudden eruption of the nuclear war, Sun Jiao's father became separated from his wife and son when they fled the city. Sun Jiao's father subsequently met Sun Jiao's mother in Survival Base 071 where they fell in love. With the blessings of the other survivors, they married and gave birth to Sun Jiao and another daughter, Sun Jiao's sister. Unfortunately, the joyful days were short-lived as the survival base was forced to open because of the depleted resources, drawing bandits that littered the wasteland into attacking the survival base. And so, Sun Jiao lost her family. She was fortunate in that she managed to escape. She wandered the ruins, but instead of meeting mutants, zombies, or slave traders, she ran into a strange individual who didn't know her purpose. Or perhaps it was better to say that she met her master. In 2139, due to the enactment of the new Strategic Defense Alliance, the Han People's Liberation Army began to be referred to as PLA. A self-proclaimed PLA female soldier appeared and took care of Sun Jiao. She taught her the necessary skills to survive in the wasteland, such as how to shoot a gun and how to identify the good and bad. But sadly her master passed away in a conflict against an unknown group of militants, and that was how Sun Jiao started her lonely journey. Sun Jiao wandered the wasteland trying to find her family, longing for the comfort of Survival Base 071. She knew that even if she managed to find them, life would not be the same again, but it served as her only motivation. She searched for their information around Donghai City until she confirmed from an old neighbor in Luding Town that both of her parents passed away in that unfortunate incident, but no information remained of her sister. The relentless Sun Jiao continued to explore the wasteland for any information, even coming across her father's home from before the war. It was precisely this mansion, but because she ran out of nutrient supplies here, she starved until falling unconscious. Then by coincidence, she met Jiang Chen here. I understand. I'll keep an eye out for you. If we can find your sister, you'll be very happy, right? Jiang Chen said with a smile after listening to her narration. Jiang Chen. Her eyes became moist. If not for Yao Yao's presence, she would have pushed him to the ground and expressed the loving emotion filling her heart. Ahem. Although inappropriate, Sun Jiao didn't know other ways to express her love. What about Yao Yao? Can I help you with anything? Since we are a family now, don't hide anything and tell me, okay? Jiang Chen rubbed Yao Yao's head. Yao Yao shook his head and gently covered Jiang Chen's hand with both of her hands. I'm already so lucky. My only family is brother Jiang Chen and sister Sun Jiao. Her smile was joyful, but it made Jiang Chen slightly teary. Yao Yao made lunch. This gentle girl took the effort to practice cooking, touching Jiang Chen even more. This was the first time he ate a meal made by a girl. He was so touched that he almost began to cry. Ahem, that was an exaggeration. Yao Yao looked at the way Jiang Chen devoured the lunch, and a joyous smile appeared on her face. As for Sun Jiao, she always ate food as if there was no tomorrow. It would be odd if she acted any differently. After lunch, the three of them cleaned up. Sun Jiao organized the supplies within the living room, and Jiang Chen followed Yao Yao to her room as he had other matters. Yao Yao, have you finished preparing for the vault door? PSH. Yao Yao burst laughing. Big brother doesn't know yet, but Sun Jiao already emptied the bank vault for you. Haha, she probably forgot to tell you because she was too surprised. She's hoping to be praised. Jiang Chen paused momentarily as a genuine delight flashed across his face. Haha, sister Sun Jiao is not you. She is probably not interested in my recognition. Because of how cute Yao Yao looked, Jiang Chen uncontrollably rubbed her hair. Like a squirrel, Yao Yao closed her eyes to enjoy the moment. Then as if she suddenly remembered something, she blinked her sweet eyes at Jiang Chen. No. Sister Sun Jiao want to receive praise from big brother like Yao Yao. She thoughtfully nodded her head, sure that her analysis was accurate. Surprised by her words, Jiang Chen laughed. You're right. I have to express my gratitude to this girl. Although most of the time she is very naughty, at times she can be surprisingly considerate. He put aside the conversation about gold and inquired about mobile game development. Mobile game? The game you play on your cell phone? Are these things popular in Big Brother's world? She asked without completely understanding him. It puzzled Jiang Chen because she spent the first 12 years of her life before the war. Were there no electronic games at that time? That was impossible. Jiang Chen voiced his thoughts, but the answer he received made him quite conflicted. That's what you mean. I think I know what you're referring to, but the popular games before the war were all played within the gaming chamber. Gaming chamber? Yes. The mainstream games were based on design engines within the virtual reality system. Lying down in the gaming chamber helped in relaxing the body, so some people even chose to spend their sleeping time in games. A lot of portable devices that connected directly to the neural network also achieved similar functions. No one installed extra games within the mobile devices. It was not because there were no more games. With the advancement of technology, the gaming format evolved over time. Just like how the DS faded through the passage of history and PSP-related game devices were no longer able to capture the market under the fierce competition of smartphones. What should I do? Jiang Chen had a stern face and fell into deep thought. Abandon mobile games? But for a company just in the initial growth phase, a jump into virtual reality would be too forced. Aren't there any other options? Can you show me that phone you're talking about, Big Brother? Yao Yao asked in a quiet voice. Of course, here you go. Jiang Chen immediately took out his Samsung phone and gave it to Yao Yao. Feel free to play with it. Yao Yao didn't hesitate, and she immediately started dissecting the phone on her workbench. Woo! Why is the CPU performance so low? Only a couple gigabytes of RAM? Yao Yao examined the phone and mumbled words that made Jiang Chen quite embarrassed. It didn't take long before Yao Yao finally understood this antique. What do you think? Jiang Chen rushed to ask as Yao Yao took off her protective glasses. It doesn't look too complicated. If we use D++ to program it, we should be able to compress everything into this tiny space. She touched her tiny chin with a focused expression. Although mobile games are programs, you also have to consider art, music, and experience, but I don't have any experience. Jiang Chen thought for a minute and realized the problem as well. Not all programming majors became game developers like Sid Meier. The key to games was the experience gained. Even if Yao Yao could compress an enormous amount of content using a more advanced language to reduce the requirement for hardware systems, the fundamental issue was still whether it was fun to play. Suddenly, Yao Yao slapped her head as if she just remembered something. Oh, let me take care of this. I promise that I'll give you what you want within 5 days. So quickly? Jiang Chen was stunned. His original plan was for Yao Yao to finish within 2 months. Hee. Yao Yao felt a little shy as she rubbed her nose. It would be difficult to program from scratch, but I just remembered there's a library nearby. Sister Sun Jiao brought these back for me from there. There must be some historical codes from the database in the library that will include the games Big Brother wants. As long as Sister Sun Jiao makes another trip to the library and copies all the files related to games between 2100 and 2200, I only need to fix the code a little to make it work. Jiang Chen left the room, gently closing the door. Why is my heart beating so fast? Am I a monster after all? Jiang Chen murmured in his heart as he walked toward Sun Jiao. He spotted Sun Jiao at the underground storage counting the supplies. The cans and preserved crackers were neatly separated beside the wall. Rice was organized within polyethylene plastic containers which were common in the wasteland after the military previously parachuted tightly sealed rescue supplies. The underground storage felt cold. The original owner, Sun Jiao's father, previously stored wine in here, but after it was discovered by other survivors, there were no traces of wine. The current quantity of supplies made it was necessary to scavenge some fridges from the residences nearby. After some repairs, they would be usable. It just meant that the solar power had to be upgraded at the same time. The current electricity was just enough to sustain the power usage in the mansion, but with a few more fridges, it would be nearly impossible to meet the demand. Chapter 33, Back to 6th Street. The energetic Jiang Chen and the flushed Sun Jiao left the basement together. Jiang Chen's cocky look made the embarrassed Sun Jiao pinch his waist, but she lost her balance and almost fell. Be careful, don't hurt yourself. Jiang Chen immediately caught her as if nothing happened. Then as he pretended to blame Sun Jiao, he slapped her on the butt. Sun Jiao gritted her teeth as she looked at Jiang Chen's smirk. Her embarrassed look made Jiang Chen feel extremely satisfied. You bastard. The usually angry Sun Jiao only managed to come up with a weak comeback. Despite her flustered appearance, the tenderness in her eyes couldn't be hidden. This small detail didn't escape the experienced Jiang Chen. He kissed Sun Jiao on the lips and escaped with a grin on his face before Sun Jiao realized what happened. He didn't want to let Sun Jiao to get back at him. This guy? Sun Jiao stared at the direction in which Jiang Chen left and angrily stomped her feet. She wanted to chase after and pinch him, but her body felt listless. He seems to have gotten better. Sun Jiao blushed red as her legs almost gave out on her. She desperately tried to find her balance against the wall. She gave his distant figure an angry stare and swore she'd get her revenge. F***ck. Just wait until tonight. When he arrived at the poolside, he sucked in a deep breath of cold air. There were at least 10 tons of gold in the pool. A ton of gold had a volume of 0.051 cubic meters, but the gold bars at the corner of the pool were at least half a cubic meter. Jiang Chen used an electronic balance and roughly measured the weight of the gold. It came out to be a total of 12.2 tons of gold, which would rake in roughly $500 million. Jiang Chen was ecstatic. Although he mentally prepared himself, it was impossible to not be surprised with such a giant pile of gold in front of him. He took another deep breath. Jiang Chen didn't immediately move the gold into the storage dimension. There was no rush since he needed to make a trip to 6th Street tomorrow, and he needed the storage dimension for exchanged goods. The gold wouldn't go anywhere. If he left now, it would be nightfall by the time he arrives at the 6th Street, so he decided to depart tomorrow morning and use the remaining time to prepare. He went back to his room and grabbed the PK-200 assault rifle that he hadn't used in a while before stepping out onto the wooden watchtower beside the wall. The dynamic gun's presence made him feel safe with its surreal sci-fi design. He clicked the safety and pulled the bolt. After concentrating, he raised the gun and locked the scope onto a frightening face wandering around and pulled the trigger. Bang! A breath of fire erupted from the gun barrel amidst the billowing smoke. The bullet hit the zombie in the chest, failing to kill it immediately. As if suddenly awakened, the wounded zombie began to frantically wave his limbs but was unable to get up. I aimed for the head but hit the chest. Jiang Chen shook his head and aimed with the scope again. The noise of the struggling zombie attracted the attention of the other slow-moving zombies, but they failed to find the source of attack without the smell of a survivor and continued to wander aimlessly. He aimed through the crosshair again. Bang! A breath of flame discharged from the barrel once more. This time Jiang Chen didn't miss, the zombie's head exploding into pieces and leaving a sludge of black blood. For time scope is ideal for mid-distance range battle. If you insist on using it at this distance, I suggest you change the zoom to 100 meters. He heard Sun Jiao's ridicule at his back. Where is it? Jiang Chen remembered a game he played before where he could adjust the gun's magnification before shooting. The only problem was that there was no page-up key in real life. It's here. Sun Jiao pointed out the button beside the scope. So that was the problem. After Jiang Chen changed the zoom from 0 to 100, he attempted the same shot again. The accuracy was much higher. Mechanical sight would be enough at this distance. Sun Jiao reached out and turned the PK-200 scope to the side, exposing the mechanical aim. Try this. Oh, so this is how you use it. Jiang Chen was able to quickly acclimate himself to the gun, but because his targets were zombies, he wasn't certain how accurate he was. Sun Jiao stood silently beside Jiang Chen and spoke up to fix his mistakes with tips on how to shoot and utilize cover. Time flew by before it was already time for dinner. I think that's enough for today. Zombies are dangerous at night, so it's better not to anger them. Sun Jiao glanced at the crowd of zombies below them. Their endless numbers made it impossible to eliminate them. Despite being killed by mutants and humans both, there were constantly more being born in the downtown area, spreading non-stop. His record was satisfactory as he managed to kill 97 zombies with 120 bullets. Sun Jiao nodded in discreet. Although it was nothing impressive, for a beginner it was a good record. She was less nervous about his ability to survive. After all, even if he couldn't win a fight, he had the ability to run away. Hee, are you feeling better? Jiang Chen closed the safety and after slinging the gun over his back, asked Sun Jiao a daring question with a grin on his face. She hesitated for a moment before her face suddenly turned to a burning shade of red. Ow. Jiang Chen painfully rubbed the leg kicked by Sun Jiao. I'm just worried about you. Wait for me tonight. Sun Jiao grabbed him by his collar and said in a vicious tone. She let go of him and jumped off the wooden watchtower in a huff. Jiang Chen quivered. She wouldn't tie me up again, would she? His face turned bitter as he thought about the chances. What if I hide in Yao Yao's room tonight? Jiang Chen ultimately decided to face reality. He obediently received his punishment from Sun Jiao that night. The next morning, he dragged his weary body back into his room. F***ck, why can't I control my own feet? He wanted to slap himself for provoking her last night. He packed his equipment and put away the canned food and compressed crackers into the storage dimension before heading towards the door. Brother, are you leaving now? With her eyes still half closed, she asked dazedly from the top of the stairs. I'm going to the 6th Street. I'll be back in a few days. Jiang Chen smiled at her as he checked his equipment one last time. Bring this with you. Yao Yao held the handrail and slowly walked down the stairs. She gave Jiang Chen a small bag. What's this? He looked at the bag, puzzled. Some small equipment that I designed. There's a drone that can connect to the EP and scan the terrain within a 1,000-meter radius. Hee, as long as I can help Big Brother out. Finished speaking, she rubbed her sleepy eyes and walked towards the sofa, curling up and falling asleep again. This little girl, is she not afraid of getting cold? Jiang Chen shook his head with a smile. He wrapped the bag around his waist and walked towards the sofa. His hands passed under Yao Yao's knees and shoulder as he lifted her. Light, and also soft with the fragrance of a natural milky smell. He brought her back to her bedroom before he left the mansion. Only blood remained from the zombies Jiang Chen shot yesterday. During the night, the active zombies ate the motionless bodies to acquire proteins. With enough, they would slowly evolve like the Roshan they encountered at the 6th Street last time. It was apparently common to see these evolved zombies in the downtown area, so most survival camps were built in rural areas. He opened the manhole and directed his flashlight inside. After confirming that it was safe, he jumped down without hesitation. It was quite scary to walk down here alone, but since the biggest threat was eliminated and it wasn't his first time traversing the tunnels, Jiang Chen acted courageously. Slowly, he progressed towards 6th Street with his assault rifle in hand. When he passed by the cannibal tribe's location again, an uncontrollable expression of disgust flashed across his face. Thankfully, the cave was cleansed by fire, and no traces remained. It was important to do so because the smell of dead bodies attracted mutated rats. If there were only one or two of them, he'd be okay, but if he encountered a group of them. Nevertheless, it was safe along the way, but he did feel bored at times. Reaching his destination, Jiang Chen pushed open the manhole, feeling the first ray of sunshine in 5 hours. He took a deep breath of fresh air. He marked a safe symbol on the full-sensory computer pen before he put it away again. The sewer system was a relatively fast way to move between places in the wasteland, but the complex tunnels made it extremely dangerous as well. It was impossible to tell what was hidden in the shadows, whether it was a nest of death claws or a cave of cannibals. Jiang Chen tried to take the route he had used last time, and whenever he reached unexplored areas, he tensed up at full alert. Leaving the sewer, Jiang Chen cautiously pulled up his gun. He didn't know if the Huizhong mercenaries were still looking for him. He would only be safe from them after entering the door. He made a beeline towards the 6th Street. The procedure was no different from last time. Soldiers in black combat suits approached Jiang Chen and signaled for him to display his identification on his EP. After confirming that he had no criminal records, they immediately allowed him to pass. It was the same desolate ghetto from last time with the weary refugees. Jiang Chen didn't buy labor right away since he now knew the rules of slave trading. All the people sold were either criminals or individuals who lost ability to work. Jiang Chen didn't want either type. Instead, he was looking for harmless individuals with a clean record and in large numbers as well. Therefore, he had to acquire them through other means. Jiang Chen didn't choose to go to the market this time. He first rented a storage near the industrial area and left all the canned food and compressed crackers there. After, he directly entered the inner circle examination station. Since it was a bulk quantity trade, it was necessary to find someone who could afford it. Other than the workforce, Jiang Chen also intended to purchase something that was not normally sold on the market. Chapter 34, The Inner Circle. Please display your ID, sir. It was the same routine check. Below the towering concrete wall was a reinforced metal gate. The inner circle was substantially more reinforced than the outer zone. Jiang Chen was fortunate enough to witness the greatness of the city from within. After he had paid a crystal for his trouble, he left all his weapons in the storage by the gate. The guard at the examination station allowed him to pass. In front of the gate was a spider tank with a triangular-shaped cannon. The limbs of the vehicle attached to tracks cast a fictional vibe. The occasional patrol team passed by was also equipped with the most advanced work of the century, black carbon nano-armor suits and fluid-looking rifles. Sun Jiao mentioned that the inner circle soldiers were the 6th Street core power. Most were private soldiers who belonged to the rulers of the 6th Street Group of 10 Council. Despite their advanced equipment, the soldiers that were a part of the outer circle were part of the 6th Street's public assets. Hence the nature between the two was entirely different. The shocked Jiang Chen considered acquiring some of their equipment as he approached his destination. Along the way, Jiang Chen also saw some pedestrians. Only a unique group of people lived in the inner circle of the 6th Street. Those included specialized technologists, wealthy mercenary leaders, and investors who purchased assets within the area. It was known as the land of the wealthy. It is also worth mentioning that the mercenaries stationed in the 6th Street acted differently compared to the wandering half-mercenary half-bandits on the wasteland. The majority of them defended the 6th Street along with the soldiers in exchange for commissions. They would also occasionally be sent to complete missions outside or protect trade routes. The mercenaries registered at the 6th Street were trustworthy as they all paid a fee as a guarantee for their services. When they no longer acted in the intention for their employer, not only does the guarantor inside the inner circle receive imprisonment, the 6th Street would send out military power to eliminate the rebellious forces. Heaven Island Hotel, your comfortable home. Jiang Chen walked into a hotel that resembled a pre-war luxurious mansion. Since he was there for business, he must also show the correct gestures. Jiang Chen paid for a 5-day stay without a blink of an eye. The total bill came out to be 50 crystals. The hotel owner immediately demonstrated the attitude similar to worshipping God as he respectfully escorted him to his room. Only the wealthy and the influential could afford a hotel like this. The hotel owner would do anything to please them. The high price of the hotel meant that people rarely stayed there. Only renowned merchants or millionaires from other survivor camps, or even from outside of Wanghai City would stay there. According to Sun Jiao, anyone who lived here would attract the attention of the public. Jiang Chen wanted that attention. How would he do business without it? He was not afraid of the troubles that would ensue. The neutrality of the 6th Street continued for more than 10 years. Their development was not the product of short-sighted growth strategies. Just this point alone was worth the recognition of the 6th Street's policy. 10 capitalists formed the Group of 10 Council, who implemented the freedom of trade policy within the walls. The balance of power allowed the strict enforcement of the policy to be enacted. No one wanted to be the first to break the rule of the game. It would not be okay to kill your business partner and ruin the deal for your neighbor. However, privacy was less of an issue. As to what Jiang Chen expected, the moment he stepped into the room, the hotel manager reported this wealthy customer to his boss. Picture. Identification, Fishbone Food Corporation representative, Jiang Chen. Time of stay, July 9th to 14th. Jiang Chen's information was presented in front of someone. Fishbone Food Corporation? Jiang Chen? Very compelling. A middle-aged man with a bowl cut leaned against the office chair. Under his thick eyebrows was a pair of hawk-sharp eyes. Do you want to get in contact with him, boss? The assistant in uniform pushed up her glasses. As Zhao Chunwu's assistant, she was not only critical to his work, she also acted as his bodyguard and occasionally helped to alleviate his needs at times of desire. Zhao Chunwu, Group of 10 Council member. He controlled 13% of the military strength within the inner circle. He was the owner of 2 firearm factories, 1 pharmaceutical company, along with an array of fixed assets in the inner circle. He was also known as the president of the 6th Street's renowned Zhao Corporation. There is no rush, let's look at the situation more closely. A grin appeared on Zhao Chunwu's face. He was uncertain about the intention of this young man. Food corporation? Where can you even find a piece of arable land on the wasteland? Even if it were through soilless culture, the vegetable produced would be in odd shapes due to the radiation, and it could even be poisonous. The soil culture also existed at the 6th Street, but most of the produce were not edible. The taste of the remainder produce was not fresh either. With exaggeration, if you planted a watermelon, it could grow into a bean for you. There was no doubt that the technology existed outside of Wanghai City where it was possible to grow to produce on the wasteland. The rarity along with the high cost resulted in the limitedness of the technology. Could it be a simulated ecosystem? He also heard about the technology before. Although the advancement of technology was far superior before the war, everyone's current focus on innovation was extremely skewed. As the controlling shareholder of the Heaven Island Hotel, he encountered many representatives at the 6th Street before. It was his first time hearing about the existence of a food corporation. There was never a shortage of mutant beef. Just ordinary people couldn't afford it. Zhao Chunwu shook his head and placed this report away. He looked at the clock and felt a sense of hunger. He asked his assistant, "Is lunch ready?" "Yes, my boss." "Do I need to confirm that today's lunch is curry chicken?" The assistant said in a professional tone. After she had received Zhao Chunwu's acknowledgement, she left the room. She then came back momentarily with a plate of steamy curry chicken. The unique aroma of curry chicken made Zhao Chunwu's saliva form at a rapid rate. Without any consideration for his composure, he devoured the meal. The assistant also swallowed as she saw how much her boss was enjoying the meal. She knew better that there was none for her. The total cost of the curry chicken was 20 crystals, which was equivalent to 2 nights of stay at the hotel. The price was not even the problem, it was the fact that you couldn't buy it with money. The Outer Circle's exchange office purchased 20 cans weeks ago. They sold each can with a price of 60 crystals to the influential individuals in the inner circle. Zhao Chunwu used his position as the Group of 10 Council member to get his hands on one of them. The good thing was that the office didn't auction the canned food or the price would be significantly higher. He divided this one can into 3 separate servings to enjoy. Zhao Chunwu investigated the whereabouts of the person who sold the cans. He heard that as soon as they left the gate, the Huizhong mercenaries went after them. No one knew if they were still dead or alive. When Zhao Chen heard this information, he was so angry that he almost broke the table and cursed the generations of Huizhong mercenaries. He almost sent out his private forces to teach those fools a lesson. However, he resisted the temptation due to his position of power, as the mercenaries didn't break any rules within the 6th Street. If he did anything, he would have broken the rule of the game. The last piece of the precious curry chicken went into his stomach as he savored the taste. He shook head as he threw the fantasy about curry chicken into the back of his mind. Although he was curious about the taste of sautéed beef his friend Sir Ding bought, he must have finished already as well. He had a business to run after all. The food was only a small part of his life. He took over a stack of documents and began reading the operation status of his company. At the same time, he glanced at the information relating to the hotel guest. He felt a sudden familiarity with the name. Why is the name Jiang Chen so familiar? Where did I see it before? If Jiang Chen knew that the canned food he sold to the exchange office was split into 3 servings by the big bosses within the inner circle, he would be hysterical. Right now, Jiang Chen was pleasantly enjoying his stay. He was the only one in the entire mansion. Despite the suppressed feeling cast by the radiation cloud and ray of mutated sunshine, which made it difficult for him to enjoy the holiday, he was quite satisfied by the facilities within the mansion. Such as the relaxation chamber. When Jiang Chen lied inside, it felt as if his entire body was covered in jelly. The view was not as beautiful as the Sheraton in Sanya, but the technology sure made up for it. Why do we need nature when we have technology? Jiang Chen, who stepped out of the relaxation chamber, felt every pore on his body was exfoliated. The cleanliness was substantially higher compared to taking a shower. It even removed dust at the micro level. Should I bring one back? Jiang Chen touched his chin as he thought about this question. He absolutely loved this. He casually grabbed a bathrobe to cover himself and ran to other amenities to enjoy them. The ping-pong robot was designed for wealthy people who had no opportunity to exercise. He abandoned his racket the second he realized he couldn't beat the robot. He was interested in the full-sensory movie theater. The 7-dimensional movie, that theaters praised in the modern world, was nothing compared to this. He put on the helmet and strapped himself into the soft chair. The surreal feeling made it feel as if it was the reality. He was shocked to find out that he was standing in the middle of New York. Jiang Chen felt the breeze lightly caress across his face as he watched a battle between cops and thugs. He could even experience everything through the protagonist's view. It was as if he was fighting himself. He could feel the screeching bullet and experience the pain himself. He just couldn't control the protagonist's movement. The thrilled Jiang Chen left the theater and returned to his room. Chapter 35, Fishbone Food Corporation. Jiang Chen's mood was hardly pleasant. It was because he had just had a sex doll. He was curious as to why the feeling was off. It was the silicone after all that made Jiang Chen conflicted about the idea. He initially thought the number 410 was just a setting and the private service was due to the hotel's high-quality maids. However, he soon realized that the girl was a robot. He came to that conclusion after using all of his techniques, and the girl still did not show any signs of pleasure. That would be a short but funny story from the trip. Jiang Chen didn't think too about the sex toy because he didn't have the same urges as before. In his view, some of the intimacy is more joyful when there are 2 people. God knows what the Heaven Island Hotel's manager would think after he learned Jiang Chen's thought process. This robot was the result of centuries of innovation. Perfectly designed, ergonomic with every detail to match. No human would look that flawless. Pregnancy or STD would not be a concern at all, as a rinse of the internal parts would allow for repeated usage. If the manager knew his peculiar thought process, he would have just gone to the ghetto and found him a prostitute there. The culture divide meant that they wouldn't understand each other. Jiang Chen preferred the realistic emotions carried by an actual person. He left the robot to the side. The occasional shoulder rub was quite relaxing. He gratefully rejected the meal service offered by the hotel as he cheerfully lied on the magnetically levitating chair. He ordered the mechanical beauty to pick up a fruit slice from the can and feed it to him. What a lavish life. An entire day passed, still, no one visited him. This made Jiang Chen uncertain about his plans. This is odd, do I need to be more proactive? He raised his eyebrows as questions floated through his mind. He was not familiar with the place, so he had no clue who the point of contact would be. Since the hotel registered him as a food corporation representative, in theory, anyone interested would contact him. Jiang Chen didn't believe the hotel manager would keep this a secret, and he was uncertain how many people would have access to the information. Jiang Chen overdramatized the severity of the situation because a merchant who smelt the opportunity for crystals was rushing there. It was the merchant that had to divide the can into 3 servings, Zhao Chenwu. Please come in. When he heard the doorbell, he answered the door as the voice-activated system automatically unlocked the door. When he saw the visitor, he didn't act surprised. He slowly and respectably stood up and asked the visitor to sit. Zhao Chunwu spotted the fruit can on the table and swallowed his saliva, but his facial expression remained calm. Although he had a passion for food, he was a man of influence, so he kept his composure. At this position of power, it was easy to disguise his desire. The assistant behind him only glanced at the can on the table once, and her expression also remained the same. Jiang Chen, who was observing the situation, became ecstatic. Disguise would mean that there was a problem. The more you pretend you don't care, the more you demonstrate your interest. The value of food was without a doubt extremely high. A careless expression would only suggest the disguise behind the intention. If Zhao Chunwu were pretending, that would mean that he was here to negotiate. Jiang Chen's plan was to find a business partner. It would be up to this negotiation to see if there would be a deal. Hello, Mr. Jiang. My name is Zhao Chunwu, this is my assistant Su Lei. Zhao Chunwu cut straight to the point and introduced himself. When she heard the boss introduce her, she respectably acknowledged. You guys clearly have done your homework. Jiang Chen gave Zhao Chunwu a thought-provoking look. The middle-aged man didn't display any awkward emotion, as if the provoking action didn't bother him at all. Mr. Jiang's detailed information means that you also want people to find you. A smile suddenly appeared on Zhao Chunwu's face. Indeed, it was not required to input the customer's information at the time of check-in. A name and genetic ID would be enough. But Jiang Chen forcefully added the Fishbone Food Corporation representative along with his name. His intention was quite clear. Haha, let's not talk about this anymore. Since we have an important visitor here, I can't be too cheap as the host. Jiang Chen gave the mechanical beauty some orders as the robot directly entered the room. Zhao Chunwu puzzled examined Jiang Chen and his intention. Jiang Chen was doing the same thing. Momentarily, the mechanical beauty walked in with 2 pieces of fresh, watery orange slices. She directly placed the plate in front of the confused Zhao Chunwu. Fruit can, a specialty of our company. I already opened the one on the counter, so it would be rude of me to serve you guys with it. I just asked my temporary maid to open 2 more cans. My passion for oranges meant that I only brought oranges with me on this trip. I hope the 2 of you will not be offended. With a grin on his face, Jiang Chen gestured Zhao Chunwu to try. Why would I be offended? This is just showing off. Zhao Chunwu cursed in his mind. The fresh-looking orange slices were only available a few years after the war. The supermarket had some yet to be raided, but the supplies were all gone within 2 years. It has been 10 years since he had an orange this delicious. He chewed on the soft orange as his edged and rough face showed a sign of excitement. However, he immediately turned into his usual collected expression when he met Jiang Chen's smile. To greet the guest with luxury like this, especially including the assistant as well, demonstrated not only his good faith but also the amount of wealth he had. Zhao Chunwu thoughtfully looked at Su Lei, who still acted calm, but her mouth was chewing non-stop. He pushed the toothpick inside a slice of orange and didn't continue to eat. There would be plenty of time to taste the delicacy after the business was done. Does it taste good? Jiang Chen asked with a smile. He also picked up a slice of orange and put in his mouth. It's delicious. To be honest, even though the 6th Street can produce some fruits, the production is limited. Due to the radiation, it is difficult to maintain the quality of the fruit, which means only some are edible. The rest could only be extracted for nutrient purposes. These were not secrets at all, as anyone on the street would know. Zhao Chunwu did not hide any information. Instead, he was straightforward and acted as honestly as possible. I have heard about this before. Therefore I see opportunities. Jiang Chen nodded. The canned food at the exchange office must be Mr. Zhang's move. Zhao Chunwu said without any fluctuation in his emotion. You are correct. I sold it at a price of 50 crystals per can. I heard that the price was raised to 60. In that case, since Mr. Jiang showed up in the inner circle and not the exchange office, you must be preparing for a big deal. Zhao Chunwu's face displayed a burning passion. Indeed, I believe my products would sell very well in the 6th Street. The opportunity finally came. A glimpse of confidence flashed across Jiang Chen's face, as the person who brought up the question was important in any negotiation, for the one that took the initiative would not be at an advantage. Zhao Chunwu couldn't contain his excitement that he was no longer calm. The canned food would sell out the moment it enters the market. As a capitalist himself, Zhao Chunwu would not let the profit in front of him escape. Do I have the pleasure of becoming your business partner? A thought-provoking smile appeared on Zhao Chunwu's face. Of course, if Mr. Zhao has enough influence, Jiang Chen responded with a vague answer. It looks like Mr. Jiang didn't investigate about me. Zhao Chunwu smiled. Any individual or force can become our business partner granted they meet all the requirements. Investigating every individual within the inner circle would be inefficient. I know that as long as I show up here, people with business insight into business will find me. It is only a matter of time. Jiang Chen shook his head and said calmly. However, Zhao Chen will recognize the other relevant information within Jiang Chen's words. Are you talking about the trade? Wait, you can provide stable supply. Zhao Chenwu pressed his hands against the table and stood up immediately. He stared at Jiang Chen with disbelief. It would be impossible in Wanghai City. It must be an organization outside of Wanghai. Simulated ecosystem facility? Regardless of what it is, I must make the deal. Mr. Zhao, you are acting overzealously. Although he was ecstatic in his mind, he remained collected and said it without any emotion. I apologize for my manner. Allow me to introduce myself again. Zhao Chenwu realized his actions were overeager. He fixed up his clothes and extended his right hand. Member of the Group of 10 Council, President of the Zhao Corporation, Zhao Chenwu. On behalf of the Zhao Corporation, I extend my warm welcome to your company's presence regarding potential deals at the 6th Street. Oh my, part of the Group of 10 Council. Jiang Chen hid his surprise. These are the conglomerate that controlled all the capital within the neutral 6th Street. Since they are part of the forces in the 6th Street, safety would not be a concern either. The absolute neutrality is a law that was strictly enforced for more than 20 years. He stood up and shook Zhao Chenwu's hand to express his gratitude. I'm Jiang Chen, a representative who is responsible for the negotiation of the deal. On behalf of the Fishbone Food Corporation, I express my gratitude to the Zhao Corporation at the 6th Street. Let's put the gestures aside and talk about the details of the business. Haha, Mr. Jiang is a straightforward person. This was what I expected. Joyous by the suggestion, Zhao Chenwu happily accepted. He originally thought Jiang Chen was a flipper merchant, common to the wasteland, with some unique products. Even if he brought him considerable profit in one trade, it would not be long-term as flipper merchants wandered across the wasteland without a home. However, Jiang Chen's proposition was a long-term trade agreement which offered a significantly different meaning. A stable trade route, with an external survivor camp with the product being luxury canned food. Zhao Chenwu was thankful that he took the initiative first. If he let this money-printing machine escape from in front of him, he would be the laughing-stock of the entire inner circle merchants. Chapter 36, Trade Route. It is extremely challenging to conduct trade on the wasteland. The endless amount of bandits along with the unsuspecting mutants made the establishment of a proper trade route between survivor camps almost impossible. Only camps in close proximities could establish stable trade routes. Some famous trade routes include the one established between Looting Town and the Barren Company. Both parties even sent out some of its forces to create supplying stations along the way to reinforce firepower. These supplying stations would often assign a strike force to provide protection to the merchants along the trade route. The development of these trade routes are the symptoms of the difference between production capability and technology level among survival camps. The tale that Looting Town is an aircraft carrier is something unheard of. The aircraft carrier was previously known as Bohai, which broke down in the harbor after the nuclear explosion. Due to various reasons, it was abandoned after the war and was only utilized by the survivors after the apocalypse. They modified the carrier with illegal upgrades which made the vessel not even close to resembling a ship. It would be more fitting to call it a platform. The absolute safety of the ship allowed it to become the haven primarily for the entertainment industry and secondarily for the high-tech industry. Don't be mistaken. The beer bottle company also did not produce beer bottles. It is a survival base focused on heavy industrial production. The base is located at the Wanghai City's rural port near the heavy industrial park. Not only is this place capable of producing the missiles used in the electromagnetic cannon on board, but it also has the capacity to manufacture high-tech guided missiles. The capacity is however limited, with most of the raw materials collected from waste. Of course, all this information is outside of the context. To open the new market at Wanghai City, I plan to establish a supply station here. In fact, I am planning this already. We are currently extremely lacking in the force and equipment necessary. The corporate headquarters provided me with the order to gather all help on site. We are going to invest all first-year profit into the construction of the supply station. Population, equipment, firearms are 3 points we need to discuss. Also another point, I don't want criminals without a guarantee in their personality. Supply station? Why don't you establish it in the 6th Street? We can provide the best security for your business. Zhao Chenwu slightly raised his eyebrows as he asked the question in his mind. Despite the 6th Street's respectable reputation in Wanghai City, in our perspective, you are still unknown and unfamiliar. This is the strategy established by the corporation. I can only follow within the boundaries set. Jiang Chen continued to make up an elaborate story as he directed everything to the non-existent company outside of Wanghai City. Regardless, the explanation was convenient and convincing at the same time. Zhao Chenwu thought momentarily before he opened his mouth. The workforce is not a problem. In general, the labor force in the ghetto remains excessive even to this day. Although on paper it is prohibited to sell non-criminals. A mischievous smile flashed across Zhao Chenwu's face. If there are not a lot of people, I can create some accidents and make them part of the tradable population. Rules are set by people. Therefore there are always ways to exploit within the rules as long as it is within reason. Jiang Chen nodded. Not a lot, I think 30 should suffice. 30 people compared with a population over 10,000 is like a drop of water in the vast ocean. No one would use 30 people as an excuse to attack him. Zhao Chenwu immediately agreed to the proposition. As to the necessary equipment, I included everything on this list. Jiang Chen smiled as he took out an electronic card and gently put it on the table. These graphene-produced cards could store up to 12 gigabytes of full sensory information. It could be charged directly under the sun, which made it incredibly easy to use. The 6th Street Market sold it for a low price. Zhao Chenwu accepted the card. He didn't seem bothered as he clicked the start button on the left side. A list appeared in front of his eyes. Anti-corrosive concrete mixer, nanotube generator, graphene cutting bed. These should be okay. There are some stored within the 6th Street storage. I'll just use Zhao Corporation's name to purchase it. However, the firearm production line and the nanochip production bed. A puzzled look appeared on Zhao Chenwu's face. These type of goods are difficult to obtain. Firearm-related production is strictly prohibited to be sold at any survival base. The nanochip production bed is not only massive and difficult to transport, even if you purchased it, without some technical background, nothing would be manufactured from the machine. Zhao Chenwu didn't lie. The nanochip has a comprehensive application, especially in the production of full sensory equipment, which will be critical to entering the full sensory computer market. However, to produce the nanochip, a series of accompanying production lines were necessary. The nano-sized silicon board must be cut by a high-precision machine. Jiang Chen touched his chin as he thought for a moment. It looks like there's no need to rush, it is probably better to do it one step at a time. Jiang Chen, who made up his mind, didn't insist on pursuing his conditions. It is fine to exclude the firearm production line and the nanochip production bed. Though, due to the need for security at the supply station, I don't know if Mr. Zhao is interested in the firearm business. There was no way he was not interested. Zhao Chenwu promised that he could find any 6th Street approved equipment for Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen expressed his gratitude. Since both parties managed to come to an agreement in the trade, they entered the discussion phase in regards to the details of the deal. After a careful deliberation, the details of the agreement were finalized. The female assistant named Su Lei professionally produced the electronic agreement and handed Jiang Chen and her boss a copy each. After Jiang Chen had examined the items were consistent in the deliberation, he pressed his thumb onto the contract. Zhao Chenwu was confident in his assistant's ability as he only scanned the document for a few seconds before stamping it with his fingerprint. When 2 genetic ID appeared on the electronic contract, it symboled the enactment of the contract. It was rather symbolic because business ethics were not enforced within the apocalypse. The key to honoring the agreement was profit for both parties. The fruit cans were priced at 30 crystals, the meats varied between 10 to 20 crystals based on its composition, and the crackers sold at 1 crystal per piece. The price of the goods was not higher only because Jiang Chen was planning to sell in bulk quantities. An item was valued in proportion to its rarity. When Jiang Chen sold the 20 cans, the high price of 50 crystals was well justified. However, since a stable trade agreement was signed, there would be a continuous supply of the canned food. Hence, such high price would not be seen anymore. The price was certainly not cheap, the hefty price tag was still 5 times the cost of mutant beef. He would also have to adjust the sale price if he sold through retail. If the price were higher, even the rich would not be able to afford it. The different types of equipment Jiang Chen needed had a different cost. The anti-corrosive concrete mixer only costed 300 crystals, whereas the graphene cutting bed had a price of 11,000 crystals, which was the price after a small discount from the market price. The 6th Street's mass-produced destroyer rifle was sold at 20 crystals each. The efficient assault was part of NATO's standard weaponry. It used the same 7.62mm bullet as the PK-200 Jiang Chen used. The gun was weaker overall but made up it in the stability category, which meant it has an advantage in man-to-man combat. Jiang Chen bought 0 of them, along with some heat sensor grenades and EMP grenades. The price offered by Zhao Chenwu made Jiang Chen quite pleased as everything was discounted by 10%. The gesture was to compensate for Jiang Chen's reduced price on the food cans. Although titled as compensation, Zhao Chengwu didn't know that the goods Jiang Chen traded had a cost of less than 1 crystal. All of the goods were exchanged in the storage space Jiang Chen rented previously. As to how Jiang Chen moved the canned food in, Zhao Chengwu was also surprised as he did not receive any reports related to large quantities of canned food appearing in the inner circle. Despite not having to pay taxes before trading for goods, documentation was still necessary. Cautioned by Jiang Chen's power, Zhao Chengwu didn't say anything. Since both of them had no conflict of interest, a strong partner would only be beneficial to him. The ability to transport goods on the mutant creature-filled wasteland was a feat on its own. They must have special transportation technology. Zhao Chengwu would never guess in his life that Jiang Chen brought the food back from a parallel world. Despite the good being exchanged at the 6th Street, Jiang Chen didn't want to make a trip down every single time. He would have no time to do anything else except to trade goods. Jiang Chen didn't have any concerns as he drew a line on the full sensory map. It was the safe underground sewer map he explored. The usage of the underground sewer system as a mean to trade goods was common in the apocalypse. This world's Wanghai city had a robust drainage system that made the tunnel wide enough to pass a car. It would only take some modifications along the way with some of the alley passes blocked to build a golden highway for trading. The only drawback was that the tunnels were not entirely compatible with the ground routes, therefore not every survival base had the privilege of using this kind of trade route. Zhao Chengwu was ecstatic when he heard that an underground sewer tunnel connected with Jiang Chen's base. He gladly took on the deed to modify this route. Jiang Chen didn't want to owe a favor, and since the intention of trade was to benefit both parties, Jiang Chen also provided 1,000 crystals to fund the project. Modification work was not complicated. A few pieces of high-density polyethylene and aluminum compound boards would seal all alleys in the tunnel. This type of material was not only light but also durable. Even vicious mutant creatures like the Deathclaw could not destroy it. Both parties controlled the entrance of the tunnel. Zhao Chengwu sent out his force to secure the tunnel at the 6th Street side, whereas Jiang Chen was responsible for establishing a station on his side. This ensured the safety and security of the route. The exits were entirely blocked to prevent any bandits from entering the tunnel. In the future, the traded goods would be exchanged near Jiang Chen's end of the tunnel. The original plan stated that, at the beginning of the month, a trade would take place. Jiang Chen was responsible for providing 1,000 meat cans and 10,000 pieces of compressed crackers along with an ordered list. Zhao Chengwu would bring goods based on the list and offer a 10% discount from the marketplace. Jiang Chen also promised that as long as Zhao Chengwu acted within the conditions of the deal, he would only conduct food business with him at the 6th Street. Additionally, because Zhao Chengwu has underground transportation vehicles with a strong protective force, it was natural for him to take care of the shipping. As to if Jiang Chen should worry about Zhao Chengwu's possible ill intention with his private force? The idea was that no one foolish enough would be able to rise to a position of power to where Zhao Chengwu was now. No one would kill the cash cow. Especially since Jiang Chen was only a supply station, the actual production facility may not even be in this province. He didn't have the capacity to explore through the entire wasteland. The closer to the city center, the more dangerous the zombies were. The further away, the mutant creatures ruled the land. He wouldn't risk the possibility of being impeached by the 6th Street to gamble on known profits with unknown possibilities. Only addicts gamble. He was afraid that bandits would target Jiang Chen's base and even suggested defense treaties, but Jiang Chen graciously refused. It was unfeasible because even if his safety were guaranteed, there would always be a set of eyes watching him. It would be impossible to import goods. If he magically created goods, it would without a doubt cause suspicion. After the completion of the trade, Jiang Chen not only acquired all the necessary products and equipment, he had 210 crystal left over. Zhao Chengwu without hesitation ensured Jiang Chen he would deliver everything to his door. Jiang Chen didn't refuse the proposition. The storage dimension size was limited. Since the production equipment was large, it would be unsafe to travel through the underground tunnel multiple times. The negotiation was successful. After he had managed to sign a big deal like this, Zhao Chengwu was ecstatic. He extended an invitation to Jiang Chen to visit the 6th Street's industrial area and his properties inside. Jiang Chen gladly accepted the invitation as he came along with his personal ride. The ambitious leader that possessed 1/10 of the 6th Street. How much power does he possess here? Jiang Chen was curious to find out. Since his partner wanted to show off his power, Jiang Chen had no reason to refuse. Chapter 37, Industrial Area. This is my firearm factory. Several hundred workers are working for me, and they send these small metal pieces to the good or the bad guys. Let's not go inside. The temperature is unbearable. The sentence sounded a bit conflicting. Zhao Chengwu pointed at the in-production firearm factory as he proudly explained to Jiang Chen. His gesture was no different than the modern world land developers. This is also my factory, but this place specializes in complex equipment such as stationary cannons. Those things mounted on the inner circle wall are produced mostly from my factory. They walked in front of a much smaller building compared to the previous one. Zhao Chunwu pointed at the place as he lit a cigarette. Apocalypse was no stranger to the cigarette. Alcohol could not be mass-produced due to the shortage of food, so cigarettes became the choice of substance to alleviate pressure. The tobacco here had a pungent smell, and not everyone smoked it. The radiation brought uncontrollable mutation to all organisms on this planet, but not all mutations were harmful. This tobacco, for example, like any other mutated plants in the apocalypse, was well adapted to the soil condition on the wasteland. It could be grown without highly specialized techniques, which is one of the reasons why cigarettes were relatively cheap in the apocalypse. A lot of survivors would grow a few in front of their homes due to its recreational and medical value. Jiang Chen naturally was not accustomed to the pungent taste. Zhao Chunwu laughed at the fact. Then, he signaled to him to not worry about it, and that he could throw it away if he didn't like it. However, it was relative. When Zhao Chunwu took Jiang Chen's Zhonghua, a top-end cigarette, he felt the taste was too light to entertain himself. Oh? I am also interested in these automatic weapons, would Mr. Zhao be willing to sell me a few? Jiang Chen saw a worker in a white uniform adjusting the half-man-sized big machine with his tablet. The cannon rotated 360 degrees, aimed at the target inside the room, and unleashed its firepower. Haha, of course, that's not a problem. However, these don't get produced very quickly. Added by the fact that the 6th Street is currently upgrading the Northern Inspection Station's equipment, it would be at least 2 months before it can be produced. Mr. Jiang would have to wait. No problem. Jiang Chen smiled without being too bothered. The two of them walked side by side in the highly advanced factory. The female assistant Su lay following behind them as she carried Zhao Chunwu's suitcase. The workers along the way saluted as they passed by, which made him feel like a person of importance doing the tour. Honestly speaking, as he took a trip to the factory, Jiang Chen became increasingly shocked by what he saw. There were magnetic hovering drones the size of a frisbee, and half-built 2 meters high-power armors. Just like Zhao Chunwu said, the production rate of the equipment was extremely limiting. This was because military factories and related facilities were first target choices during the war. To obtain a civil production line was relatively easy, but to acquire a complete military production line were nearly impossible. Including the power armor that was being produced, the majority of the equipment were being built by hand. Jiang Chen saw a worker use a tool similar to hammer to form the shape of the armor at high temperatures, and another worker carefully installed the microelectronic chips inside the armor. Perhaps all these production steps were done by high-precision automatic production lines before the war, but in the apocalypse, a lot of things must be done by hand. Of course, the missing production processes were for more complicated equipment. The production line for bullets was relatively easy to acquire. Despite limitations, the survivors still possessed a tremendous amount of firepower. Regardless how hard the zombies' heads are, a single bullet would solve the problem. Even for the Death Claw, who could rip through the power armor's outer protection layer, tanks still existed as its natural predator. A question was apparent. With all these powerful equipment, the humans still can't conquer the bloodthirsty mutants and zombies? He thought about this point and was silent. He was curious as to what existed in the city center. Part of this equipment will become my private force, and part of it will be sold to the 6th Street military or other interested buyers. However, the power armor is usually not permitted to be sold. The spider tank and other heavy equipment are also prohibited. With the exception that the 6th Street Council approves the military purchase through voting, my factory would then begin to produce the complicated equipment. Zhao Chunwu did not seem to notice Jiang Chen as he rambled on. The words were meant as precautionary measures, as it would be difficult if Jiang Chen wanted to buy a power armor. So Mr. Zhao is considered a firearm merchant then? Jiang Chen got rid of all the questions in his head and smiled. Somewhat. I still have a pharmaceutical factory, and I also operate some fixed assets within the inner circle. If Mr. Jiang is interested in buying a house in the inner circle, I would be of great help. Zhao Chunwu inhaled the cigarette as he said with a welcoming smile. He then grabbed a bracelet shaped like an arm guard and gave it to Jiang Chen. Mr. Jiang is often out venturing, this nitrogen armor will be my gift to you. Appreciate the gift. Jiang Chen didn't reject the offer. He wore the bracelet on his arm before he looked at Zhao Chunwu, eyes full of questions. How do you use this? Zhao Chunwu signaled to the soldier that tested the equipment by the side. The soldier saluted and jogged to the middle of the separation chamber. The soldier deployed the nitrogen armor in his hand as the dense gas surrounded him in thick turbulent waves. The bracelet in the middle spread the dense gas into a semi-hemisphere shape. At that moment, a heavy machine gun appeared in front of the soldier as the pitch-black barrel spat out waves of bullets. The excellent sound insulation of the separation chamber made it impossible to hear any noises inside. Jiang Chen was surprised to discover that the moment the shots came in contact with the nitrogen layer, the bullets all bounced off. The soldier standing behind the shield still remained in a half-standing position and looked like he didn't even receive the impact of the bullets. Holy! This is a protective barrier. Using the atomic vortex effect that forces the nitrogen to create a high-pressure circulation around a center point. Haha, the scientists can go figure the theory part out, I only care about the end result. Is Mr. Jiang satisfied with this? Zhao Chengwu waved his hand to signal the end of the experiment as the machine gun disappeared. Satisfied, extremely satisfied. Is there any limitation with this equipment? Jiang Chen fidgeted with the bracelet before putting it on. Not really, except the power consumption is quite high. The vortex equipment in the middle may overheat. One crystal is enough to initiate this equipment for 1 minute. The equipment will overheat with 10 seconds of usage. After a period of usage, the used crystal would be higher than the cost to produce it. Also, it is not effective against laser and particle weapons, but it is quite exceptional against bullet weapons. Zhao Chengwu let out a smoke ring as he explained. I didn't imagine Mr. Zhao's factory has the capability to develop weapons, Jiang Chen exclaimed. Haha, of course, but this thing doesn't sell that well as not a lot of people can afford it. However, my scientists have been working to integrate this device onto the power armor to see if it can be useful as a part of it. Let's not talk about this anymore, the scientists can take care of these headaches. Haha, like what I said before, I only care about the end result. After they had left the factory, Zhao Chengwu took Jiang Chen to the pharmaceutical plant for a tour. Except the plant was rather small, so there was not much to be seen. Apparently, the genetic vaccine produced from this place accounted for 30% of the 6th Street's market share. Some other vaccines were also among the popular choices on the wasteland, such as steroids and blood makers. After a tour of everything, the two returned to the front door of the ghetto. It was the same labor market manager called Wang Yi. The moment the bold and fat guy saw Zhao Chengwu, he dashed out and saluted in the most exaggerated fashion. His look was comical but not annoying. The fat man had his ways as he managed to live comfortably in the apocalypse by flattering and kissing a*s, not many could manage to pull it off. Zhao Chengwu didn't waste a single word as he glanced at his personal assistant Su Lei before continuing to gloat with Jiang Chen. Su Lei took out a piece of paper and handed it with professionalism to Wang Yi. Wang Yi carefully took that piece of document and promised that he would take care of it. He ran back into this office and took out a stack of paper. Choose whoever you want, these are all excessive labor without work. You don't need to worry about the possibility of stealing other factories' worker. Zhao Chengwu waved his hand as Su Lei gave the stack of documents to Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen had made the agreement of 30 people with Zhao Chengwu already, and he promised to pay 20 crystal per person. It was included in the price of the goods they already exchanged. The official price for the criminal was 1 crystal, the other 19 was based on the cost of Jiang Chen's demand to install the latest insurance system. Zhao Chengwu didn't make a single crystal in this deal as he sold it at cost to Jiang Chen. Compared to the potential profit of the trade agreement, he didn't care about the small gains and losses. The latest insurance system was far more exceptional compared to the electronic bracelet. It used nanosurgery to install microchips at the neck of the criminals. If anyone betrayed or resisted, Jiang Chen could immediately activate the destruction program in the chip, and the betrayer's head would fly off like a soccer ball. Although cruel, Jiang Chen was not ready to risk his own life for the sympathy of irrelevant people. At the same time, the chip was equipped with a lie detector, GPS tracking, visual sensor, and neural shut-off system. The criminals would have no privacy nor the ability to betray. It was far more advanced than the electronic collars. Though of course, it came at a hefty price too. However, Jiang Chen was an understanding guy. As long as they have no ill intentions, he didn't mind letting them enjoy a much more comfortable life. Haha, let me know if you see anyone you like, they will be deported because they possess terminal illness. Zhao Chengwu only needed to open his mouth before he decided the fate of this group of people. The feeling of power was an excellent feeling. Jiang Chen had the pile of resumes in his hand as he flipped through everything. The resumes lacked **T compared to the modern-day ones and explicitly stated the person's worth. A special examination, using an artificial intelligence's testing system, was done to objectively determine a person's abilities. For example, if one possesses computer knowledge, the artificial intelligence would divide the knowledge of equipment into 5 levels. Construction major, or mechanical major. In the 6th Street with an excessive workforce, without an exceptional skill, it would be impossible to find a job. At the firearm factory that Zhao Chengwu didn't even want to step in, everyone was a mechanical scientist on the production line. But to Jiang Chen, these guys were far more valuable, and he terribly needed their help. The advanced technology specialist comprised of one-third construction, mechanical, and chemistry applications and technologist made up the remainder of the choices. Individuals with special abilities were prioritized, for example, people who could cook would be considered by Jiang Chen. Subsequently, people with good body conditions were prioritized since upgrading the mansion required labor. Lastly, families were considered first because people part of a family have a unique sense of belonging and connection. Jiang Chen would not have to worry about their loyalty. Also, he didn't want to take care of people's hormonal needs. Jiang Chen handed the chosen resumes to Su Lei, and the professional female assistant headed to the ghetto with the 30 resumes in her hand. Zhao Chenwu had already arranged everything with the manager of the ghetto as the group of people were gathered quickly before they were taken to a quarantine room. They used the excuse, testing for diseases, but all the reports were already forged. All 30 of them were diagnosed with the X1 virus and were then taken to a room to have the microchip implemented. Human rights? That's a joke, there were no human rights in the apocalypse. The moment they received the nutrient supply from the survivor base, their freedom no longer belonged to them. Jiang Chen didn't rush to see the people he selected. Instead, he returned to the inner circle. Zhao Chenwu put Jiang Chen's ID on the inner circle whitelist, which meant he no longer needed to pay a 1 crystal entrance fee. Although the tax was not a huge amount, it was a friendly gesture. The purchased individuals were placed as supplies and were guarded by Zhao Chenwu's own force into the underground sewer system. They headed for the arranged trade point and waited for Jiang Chen to accept the supplies at that point. Despite the fear that may be going through the individuals' heads, Jiang Chen accepted Zhao Chenwu's invitation to have dinner together. On the dinner table, the 6th Street boss constantly flattered him, which made Jiang Chen quite amazed by the power of money. Regardless of age, money talked. In the end, he only needed to consider how to expand his power to preserve the cake in his hand. Chapter 38, Slave Arrangement. The next day, Jiang Chen checked out from the Paradise Island Hotel. He then said goodbye to Zhao Chenwu before beginning his journey back home. The underground sewage system's restructuring plan had already started. A few military personnel from the Zhao Corporation had already occupied the entrance. The busy construction vehicle, along with the workers with polyethylene boards, demonstrated the emphasis Zhao Chenwu placed on this trade route. Soldiers with full combat gear saw Jiang Chen approach and signaled him to stop. After verification of Gene ID to identify that Jiang Chen was a person of importance to the boss, the soldiers saluted and stepped aside to allow Jiang Chen to pass. Although they worked under a corporate structure, the private forces already possessed military discipline and capability that made Jiang Chen gain a better understanding of the 6th Street's ability. On the surface, the civil military was protecting the safety of the 6th Street, but the real forces were the private forces of the capitalists. The civil military acted more like the police. If these soldiers faced the Roshan, it would be an easy fight, unlike last time. The actual construction of the underground sewage system has yet to begin. Jiang Chen jumped on top of the mold-covered concrete floor. His surroundings were pitch black. He opened his tactical flashlight as well as the three-dimensional map on the full-sensory computer. After finalizing the direction, Jiang Chen headed home. The atmosphere felt repressive. After the civil soldiers had taken them to the quarantine room, a bad feeling sprouted from everyone's head. The examination that they all acquired X1 virus has rectified their suspension. Then a few people in white coats that looked like doctors ordered soldiers with genetic medication to pin them on the bed. After they had regained their consciousness, everyone's neck felt oddly sore. All of you have been injected with the slavery microchip. I don't think I have to explain further. You'll be taken to your new owner in a bit, you pigs. Chang Weigua still clearly remembered the cold and condescending gaze. To the 6th Street, the unemployed were pigs that wasted food. It was a conspiracy. But no one resisted. They were no longer new to the survivor camps. After they have accepted the aid, freedom is only a mere wish. If they didn't work, they would receive 1 nutrient supply a day. This would only prevent them from starving to death, but a few had died anyways. All of them huddled in a circle as 6 soldiers in black combat gear stood by the side. Some had guessed that the Zhao Corporation purchased them, but with the supplies stacked beside them, it only made them feel like they were part of the items sold. Honey, did they do anything to you? Chang Weigua worriedly held his wife's hand. No, I lost my consciousness after they injected tranquilizer. I feel the same way as you guys, only a bit sore in the neck. Zhou Jieshi wanted her husband to remain calm as she gently held his hand and answered softly. The couple should spend some intimate time together. Maybe we will be sold as slave labor somewhere. The man will work, and the woman, a middle-aged man opened his mouth, and he said grinning. What the foo asterisk K did you just say? Chang Weigua felt the tremble from his wife's hand as rage filled his chest. He furiously glared at the man. What, do you want to fight? The middle-aged man drowsily yawned as he pointed at the back of his neck. Come, I won't fight back. Let's see if you die or I die first. Slaves are the private property of the owner. If a fight broke out between slaves, the usual consequence was that both parties would be executed in public. The private forces have already noticed the disturbance, and they pointed their guns to deter the fight. These people were properties of the boss' valued friend. If anything happened, they would receive punishment. Chang Weigua clenched his fist but had to let it go. The other slaves saw that nothing happened and all lost their interest without paying more attention. Suddenly, the private forces all moved. The 6 of them lined up and saluted to a young man. They got on the small moving vehicle and then left. What does it feel like to be stared down by 30 pairs of eyes? It didn't feel like anything special, especially when he knew he controlled their life. The apathetic feeling to life felt particularly real. Jiang Chen let out a breath as he got rid of the uneasy feeling from his mind. He didn't want to become a cold-blooded politician. He wanted to be a wealthy man who lived a lavish life. Unambitious is not a terrible way to experience life. However, to accumulate wealth on this chaotic piece of land, he must have the necessary forces. If he weren't a rich man, he would just be a prey. If he met Huizhong mercenaries again, he would fall victim again. Force and deterrence were necessary, and he must get used to them. He recollected his thought as he scanned through the jittery figures and slowly let out a long breath. Okay, look at me. I will be your future master. Jiang Chen clapped his hand as he shouted. His voice echoing through the dark sewage system had a strange feel to it. I know you guys all have a lot of questions in your mind, such as if you would be used as a lure or carry a weapon to go fight in the front line. Fortunately, I can guarantee that it won't happen. Jiang Chen sensed that everyone let out a sigh of relief. The 30 heartbeat-related indicators have all decreased on the EP. A pleased smile appeared on his face before he took another deep breath and spoke out. You guys are lucky because I am your master and I believe you will experience that shortly. You work for me, and you won't starve. I can even let you guys live a wealthy life as you have never imagined before. However, at this point, Jiang Chen gradually slowed his voice down and purposely lowered his voice as he added a sullen chillness to his tone. I am a kind and sympathetic person, but the only thing I cannot forgive is betrayal. You all know the microchip installed at the back of your neck. For me, you have no privacy at all. For traitors, there is no punishment other than death. That's all. His words of certainty transmitted through the pitch-silent underground sewage system. The frightened, fearful, and worried pupils dilated as they didn't dare to make a sound. Afraid? That's right. That's what he wanted to instill in their heart. Carrot after stick, he knew that these people would be obedient. He was aware that the moment they smelt the first bowl of congee after so many years, these frightened and uncertain people would immediately praise him as the second god. What are you all waiting for? Grab everything and let's go home. Jiang Chen waved his hand as the slaves stood up quivering and lifted all the supplies. He climbed out of the exit. After he had ensured the safety of the surrounding, he lowered the hook and cables down. People below hooked the supplies up and lifted the stocks one by one. The production equipment were all disassembled and stored in boxes. Assembling can be done in the mansion. He led the slaves with packs of supplies as they carefully traversed through the deserted streets full of lifeless zombies. Jiang Chen finally saw his mansion, or dirt fortress. He pressed the doorbell. Quickly, a graceful figure jumped into his firm embrace as she hugged his neck. Did you pick up girls? The cat-like eyes gazed at Jiang Chen as Sun Jiao examined him top-down. Shouldn't the first sentence be I miss you? Jiang Chen patted Sun Jiao's back with a bitter smile. This girl was even naughtier. An audacious girl transforming into a caring woman? You haven't answered my question yet. Sun Jiao smirked as she drew a circle on his back with her finger. I swear to God, no. Jiang Chen raised his hand and swore. At the same time, he added a sentence in his mind. If the robot doesn't count. Although her sixth sense made Sun Jiao a little suspicious, Jiang Chen didn't smell odd so she quickly let it go. After she had kissed Jiang Chen again, she began to order the slaves on the side to move things into the mansion. Then started to plan on how to settle these slaves. The grass field in front of the mansion was circled out and used to build temporary tents for them. The small traveler-sized tents were purchased with Zhao Chenwu and could barely fit 2 people. Due to the limitation of space, they would have to squeeze a bit, but it would still be better than sleeping outside. Of course, there were still rooms in the mansion, but Jiang Chen wasn't kind enough to let these strangers live in his home. Even if they have no ability to fight back and kept a clean record in the ghetto, he still had trust issues. Without the proper loyalty and allegiance, Jiang Chen could only treat them as strangers. Yao Yao understandingly followed Jiang Chen's instructions and brought a giant pot. She dumped half a bag of rice along with an ample amount of water. Then she added some cabbage leaves and some ground pork into the pot with 2 spoons of salt and a small spoon of gourmet powder. She opened the natural gas and started to cook in the giant pot. After a giant wooden spoon had mixed all the ingredients, Yao Yao tiptoed to cover the pot. She sniffed and adjusted the fire before waiting quietly for the congee to cook. Although she didn't understand why Jiang Chen would make such a delicious meal for the slaves, she would support his decision regardless of the motive. Brother's sympathetic look was handsome. Perhaps it was the fire, but Yao Yao's face blushed in redness. Slowly, she was getting to the age where she had her own fantasy. Chapter 39, Jobs and Responsibilities. When bowls of congee mixed with cabbage leaves and ground pork were brought to the table, everyone gulped at the smell of delicacies. Hungry eyes stared fixedly at the table. If not for the slavery microchips, they would have dashed at the food like monsters. Jiang Chen was happy to see their expressions. These people were his slaves, but he would rather treat them as employees as long as they were obedient like now. As long as no one dared to rush for the food without his permission, he was satisfied. Gulp. Jiang Chen glanced at Sun Jiao beside him with an awkward smile. Even this foodie gulped at the sight of the food. He lowered his voice and said, "Didn't you just eat? Why are you hungry?" "None of your business." Sun Jiao threatened him with a flash of her teeth before she averted her gaze with a blushing face. She wasn't necessarily hungry, but she was driven by an instinct for food. "Ahem, what are you guys waiting for? Time to eat." Jiang Chen signaled that they could eat with a smile on his face. His voice was like a heavenly melody to them. When Jiang Chen said the word eat, almost all of the slaves wanted to profusely thank him. These refugees were law-abiding people, which meant they were easy to control. They needed only 2 meals a day to survive, and even without the deterrence of the microchips, no one was foolish enough to have ill intentions when they saw Jiang Chen's generosity. A fool would never have the ability to find another fool to scheme together anyway. Of course, as a method of deterrence, the microchips did an excellent job. Don't rush and eat slowly. If you're not full after 20 minutes, then you can line up again to have another bowl. Of course, if you dare to overeat and puke it out, I'll make you eat everything you vomited. Jiang Chen stood by the giant pot as the slaves one by one went up and carefully used a ladle to pour congee. "That's disgusting," Sun Jiao whispered by Jiang Chen's ear. "I can't let these people who haven't seen rice before waste it, right?" Jiang Chen quietly replied with a shrug. This meal consumed 2 pounds of rice, 2 pork strips, and 3 cabbages. A lot of the food in the basement was brought out to exchange for supplies, and as for the rest, the stored cans of food were used to trade, and the cabbages and perishable rice were originally supposed to last the 3 of them for a month. Now that 30 people needed to be fed, the food in the basement was nowhere near sufficient. After all, Jiang Chen bought those at the supermarket, so the quantities were small. "Stop, these things aren't even worth mentioning where I come from. I'll go again soon to bring more back," Jiang Chen responded with a bitter smile. At the same time, he was planning to rent a storage space in the rural area and use a food distributor to purchase some non-packaged food. Using sandpaper every time was too much of a hassle. But this audacious Miss Sun Jiao was becoming more of a homemaker. The dissatisfied pout in her eyes at his wastefulness oddly made Jiang Chen feel a rush of emotion. The more this girl transformed into a civilized person, the more attractive she became. Jiang Chen touched his slightly burning nose and stopped peeking at the side of her face. The mansion was no longer empty like before, and with this many people, he had to be aware of any intimacy. When he saw the completely cleaned-out bowls accompanied by eyes that were still frightened but now held a hint of gratitude, Jiang Chen coughed as he signaled for everyone to look at him. "Are you guys full?" No one responded. "If you want to eat tomorrow, then you better answer all of my questions." Jiang Chen narrowed his eyes. "Yes." Everyone hesitantly opened their mouths. Jiang Chen nodded his eyes, pleased. "Excellent. Hearing your response makes me confident that I'm not raising a bunch of mute pigs. The way I speak may be offensive to you because you guys are nothing to me. Thanks to me, none of you have to starve anymore, and this is a comfort not many can imagine. Therefore, you all have to prove your worth. Prove that you're worth the 3 meals you eat every day." "Yes, I will provide 3 meals a day. But don't be too happy yet. People slacking off are not included. I don't want to be your master because that means I have the responsibility to feed you. Instead, I want you all to consider me as your boss. You are my employees, but the consequence of being fired is quite high. I don't think I need to explain any further." Not a single person argued against his words. To a person who offered them food without torture, they felt only gratefulness. As for what to call him, they didn't care. Even if Jiang Chen made them call him daddy, they would do so without any hesitation. Dignity? That was for people who weren't hungry. Also, as a civilized individual, Jiang Chen treated them with some respect for his personal reasons. If they were cute girls, it might have been acceptable, but the thought of this bunch of men calling him master only gave him goosebumps. And most importantly, he didn't want his inner self to change from hearing the title master. After everyone finished eating, Jiang Chen adjusted his mindset and continued to speak. Rome wasn't built in a day's time. You all are the first ones to join me in building my empire. I'll bring order and prosperity to this lawless land, and you must contribute to my vision, and in return, I'll continue providing the food that ensures your survival. That's enough from me. From tomorrow on, everyone has work to do. Clean up the bowls after yourself. Whoever's name I call, stay behind. The rest can go back. Remember one thing, the mansion is a restricted area. If anyone enters without my permission, they will be killed immediately. His last sentence rang out with a deathly chill. He monitored the 30 heart rate indicators in his EP, and he nodded with satisfaction. Without any abnormal stimulation, the heart rate would not fluctuate, which meant that they don't have any strange thoughts. Everyone brought their bowls with them at their dismissal and headed to the sink with Yao Yao's guidance. He was thankful for the automatic water treatment system which provided them with citywide safe and clean drinking water in the post-apocalypse. Everyone whose names were called stood quivering in front of Jiang Chen. They didn't know what their master would make them do. Zhou Jieshi. Yes. Zhou Jieshi gently bit her lip as she bowed down to Jiang Chen staring on the ground. She had a husband who loved her dearly. To be truthful, she was afraid that Jiang Chen would require some disdainful need from her. If that was the case, she couldn't resist. For her husband's life, she would shamefully accept. She was clearly thinking too much. Although she was rather attractive, Jiang Chen wasn't into married women, and he especially was not interested in forcing anyone. Also, Miss Sun Jiao was standing beside him. You all don't have to be so afraid. I won't eat you guys, Jiang Chen said as he shrugged at the 2 males and 2 females. He then asked the wife, do you know how to cook? It was an odd question, but Zhou Jieshi truthfully nodded. As a qualified wife, of course she knew how to cook. It was just that ever since she woke up from the hibernation chamber with her husband in the survival base, she hadn't seen rice in a long time. You'll be responsible for the food of these 30 people. I'll give you a menu in a moment. After he finished, Jiang Chen didn't bother to look at Zhou Jieshi's expression as he flipped to the next page. Wang Qin. Here. The timid girl with freckles was frightened by Jiang Chen's voice. This is not elementary school. You don't have to say here, just say yes. Jiang Chen gently smiled at the peculiar gazes of the 4 people before getting back to the point. You're an accounting major. Therefore, you'll be responsible for the supplies and storage. I'll give you a copy of the key, and I need a record for every supply's usage. This is an important task, and I cannot allow you to make a mistake. Do you understand? Understood. Great. Although the voice was a little weak, it certainly showed her determination which pleased Jiang Chen. Her timid personality made him especially satisfied with his choice. Lu Huaxing. Peanuts? Jiang Chen almost burst out laughing at such an odd name. Yes. A responsible-looking middle-aged man cautiously nodded in response. I heard you were the chief developer of Huajian real estate. That was before the war. Lu Huaxing smiled bitterly. I don't care when it happened, I only need you to redesign this base for me. That's right, I want to build a survival camp far larger than 6th Street. I'll need you to draw a layout plan with the mansion in the center and expand the radius of the base by 2 times. The design of the wall, where to put it, how much material is required, and the survivors building, I trust you know these better than me. I want to see the result by tomorrow at 6 o'clock. I need a full sensory computer and a memory card, Lu Huaxing cautiously said. For drawing purposes. Here you go. Jiang Chen said without even blinking. Jiang Chen purchased a bunch of these cheap, second-hand equipment that littered the 6th Street. Okay, that's it. You 3 can leave now. The ones released let out a breath of relief as they looked compassionately at their companion left behind before they quickly left with their bowls. Hee, boss, what about me? The person remaining was a middle-aged man with a pair of glasses. His figure was rather lean, meaning he was unable to do any physical labor. He saw that Jiang Chen didn't say anything, which made him uncomfortably scratch his head as he asked in a timid voice. The other 3 people were all assigned tasks to complete, but this young boss didn't give him any instructions, which made him quite afraid. His mind began to wander to see if he did anything wrong to upset the boss. Chapter 40, Game Development. His anxiety was unjustified as Jiang Chen's voice was calm and gentle. But to Du Yongkong's ears. I like the title boss. Jiang Chen smiled as he pulled out a resume and cut straight to the topic. Du Yongkong, age 30, male, computer major, previously worked as the chief technology officer at Walkman Technology. Is this correct? Yes. Du Yongkong carefully answered, uncertain about the meaning behind Jiang Chen's words. That makes things easier then. Jiang Chen got right to the point and threw a Huawei phone to him. You're going to develop an operating system for me on this thing. It shouldn't be that difficult for you, right? Eh? This is an order. I want to hear you answer with certainty. Jiang Chen didn't waste time with any bullsh**. He bought these people to work for him, not the other way around. Yes, yes. Du Yongkong quickly nodded without any attitude that indicated his former executive position at a top company. Such a laughable dignity had long vanished in the cruelty of the apocalypse. Jiang Chen now controlled his life, and his only option was to serve him. When Jiang Chen saw Du Yongkong's perplexed look, he smiled and walked over to pat him on the shoulder. He didn't care about the overwhelmed expression on Du Yongkong's face as he continued to explain. You don't have to be reserved. Do a good job, and I won't let you down. I understand, boss. Du Yongkong sensibly lowered his head. Jiang Chen nodded before he continued, I have some requirements. Let me know if you have any difficulties, but you'll have to solve it, understand? Yes. Good. Jiang Chen was pleased with Du Yongkong's certainty. I don't know about operating systems, so I only care about the results. I need you to develop an operating system that has 2 times the processing power as this system called Android. At the same time, don't change any of the requirements so that it remains compatible with all Android and iOS system software. Ask me any questions you have right now since you won't be seeing me a lot. I want to see a reliable result by next month. Finishing, he handed him an iPhone that was also brand new. Du Yongkong took it and fiddled around on the screen for a bit before a forced smile appeared on his face. What? Is this too difficult for you? Jiang Chen raised his eyebrows. No, this is too easy. Du Yongkong waved his hands in denial. He was afraid that his boss would fire him for this kind of easy job that didn't exist even before the war. Then explain. Jiang Chen was quite curious. Du Yongkong adjusted his glasses as he displayed the phone with the air of a professional before he started to explain. First, this old operating system should be a product from 150 years ago. The hardware operating efficiency as well as the human-computer interactive design are full of flaws. Oh? You're saying that the human-computer interface of the iPhone is bad? Jiang Chen couldn't help but laugh at the statement. Du Yongkong snuck a look at Jiang Chen's expression, and when he saw that he wasn't angry hearing about the flaws of the 2 operating systems, he began to explain more in depth with renewed courage. Regarding hardware operating efficiency, although the logic seems faultless, there exist unnecessary areas. To put it simply, a logic that can be covered with just 1 + 1, due to the limitation of the programming language as well as the algorithm, becomes muddled when the processor must do some unnecessary actions. For example, by defining A = 1, B = 1, and then calculating C = A + B to output C = 2 as the final result. This old processing method not only wastes memory, but it also decreases the operating efficiency of the equipment tremendously. Oh? Then how will you take care of it? Jiang Chen asked curiously. This is an easy fix. The ultimate problem lies in the limitation of the programming language. Although both systems have its pros and cons, they can't escape the boundary of the lower-level programming language. If D++ is used to program it, some small adjustments to compatibility will solve the problem. The antique known as the phone would have its operating efficiency increased by 3-fold, and the power consumption would also be cut in half. At the same time, because the drain on the hardware is lessened, the hardware life would also be extended for a prolonged period. Jiang Chen gasped for air. This was ridiculous. The hardware operating efficiency increased by 3 times? Could it also be compatible with apps from both systems? These 2 features alone were already insane. That meant that even with a terrible phone, they could easily run games previously available only on the iPhone. This system would start a revolution in the phone gaming industry. Phone game developers spent an endless amount of effort to decrease memory usage. To optimize the game, they often had to remove features that enhanced gameplay and catered towards the general audience. But if this operating system was introduced, everyone's phone performance would increase by 3 times. At that point, the creativity of developers could be fully unleashed, free to create worlds of imagination that could run on every computer. It was a technological revolution. iOS and Android would never be able to compete. Regarding human-computer interaction, I recommend maintaining the status quo since I'm already accustomed to this interface. Jiang Chen paused. Even if he controlled this man's life, he didn't want to expose his identity to someone who had yet to prove anything. Trust me, boss, my design will be much more advanced than this ancient human-computer interaction method. This former chief of technology officer was a different and more zealous person when touching on the topic of technology. Yes, using the touchpad to perform human-computer interaction is still mainstream even to this day, but this ancient operating system is inherently different from the operating system used by present-day entertainment systems. What's the difference? Jiang Chen asked curiously. Artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence? Can you create it? Jiang Chen raised his eyebrows. If it is basic artificial intelligence, I'm confident I can create it in a month's time since all the data is stored in the library's database. I only need to transfer it. Yongkong patted his chest. If artificial intelligence isn't difficult, then why isn't it on the full sensory computer? Jiang Chen asked with some confusion. If it was so effective, there was no reason to not use it on the full sensory computer. That's because the Artificial Intelligence Act prohibited the development of artificial intelligence. If everything was given to machines to do, everyone would be unemployed. The artificial intelligence operating system was popular for a time before it was replaced by an equally impressive neural operating system. Before the war, artificial intelligence was only limited to the nuclear power plant, the water treatment plant, and other government-run infrastructure. I see. You talked about basic artificial intelligence. Are there no risks? Jiang Chen voiced his worry of the artificial intelligence programs potentially mutating within the modern-day world's internet and developing into a malicious program. He was reminded of the movie I, Robot that portrayed a world ruled by artificial intelligence. Boss, you are worrying too much. Yongkong sighed, guessing at Jiang Chen's concern. The program is fundamentally a stable program. Even if they were intelligent, they could never possess emotion or desire. At a basic level, it can only be what you've programmed it to do. Its intelligence responds to what you've taught it before. For example, if you hit it, it will not fight back. Its interest is neither hurt nor would it sense any danger. Unless you specifically tell it, if someone hits you, fight back. Only in this case would it respond with an action. Self-coding is something only intermediary artificial intelligence possesses. As for emotions, that's something only advanced artificial intelligence would have. Even before the war, it was a theoretical concept. Artificial intelligence was fundamentally a more advanced program. Only after hearing the explanation did Jiang Chen finally feel relieved. Okay, you'll be fully responsible for everything. You're free to try anything you want. Also, you have to keep in mind that you must ensure the security of the system. I don't want to hand this phone to someone only to have them crack the entire operating system and create something similar. Security was of the utmost concern. Jiang Chen didn't want to see the operating system he brought over to be cracked into an open source within a few days. Especially if the D++ language was exposed, he would not be able to explain it. The best way to program it was to have it be like a black box that only exchanged information with an external source but did not accept any data extraction. Yongkong hesitated for a brief second before he smiled and promised. Boss, don't worry. The program I develop will not be easily cracked. Walkman Technology Corporation's games were all secured by me. Take a Starstorm 7 for example. It released before the war, but no one in the world has been able to crack the game yet. For an operating system of this level, this is a piece of cake to me. This certainly seemed to be the case. If someone in the modern world had the ability to crack software made by the chief technology officer from 150 years in the future, it meant that he was also a time traveler. Jiang Chen would do anything to kill him, but of course, such scenario would be impossible. Good, if you can do it, it'll be an outstanding achievement. Work hard, I promise you'll be able to eat meat every meal. Jiang Chen laughed as he patted Yongkong's shoulder. Hearing about the meat, Yongkong was ecstatic. He would never have dreamed of this before. With a taste of the rewards, Yongkong immediately reaffirmed that he would finish in no time. It was no surprise that he used to be in management, he was technically skilled but also masterful in kissing ass. Jiang Chen didn't dislike such clever people. Lastly, for Future Technology's logo, make it look cool so that people think it's futuristic, but don't overdo it. Yes. Boss, the guy belted out. Jiang Chen nodded his head, pleased at Yongkong's confidence. He waved his hand to signal him to leave. The cheerful Yongkong carried both phones and walked away. Of course, before he left he also remembered to take his bowl. Instead of labor work, he could work in his old field. For many years, he hadn't dared to imagine this kind of happiness. But it became a reality on this day. Grateful for the opportunity given by Jiang Chen, Yongkong mustered all of his determination to create a product that would stun the boss. Although the technology was ancient, the boss liked it, and the best way to rise up the ladder was to do things that the boss liked. He didn't care about Jiang Chen's purpose, he only needed to complete the task.